Welcome, but in this video we're going to look at PTC Windchill's modular platforms capability. This is also known as options and variants. The idea behind modular platforms is that we take a complete product and architect the structure in such a way that we can use conditions and controls to define optionality within that structure. We define modules within the structure and create interchangeable modular variants. We then also define common module interfaces so that the modules can be interchanged within the complete product. We then combine all of these into a complete platform definition. Next we define controls against that platform, and we can apply conditions to those controls. Using this we can then generate different configurations of the product and manage those inside Windchill. The modular platform's capability inside Windchill is supported by a number of validation and analysis capabilities, for instance digital mockup, and Windchill's change management capability can be used to manage change across the architecture and the modules within the architecture. Next, let's have a look at the capabilities using the Windchill application. Here we are looking at Windchill, and we're going to look at an example structure that has options and variants configured within the structure. The example is a military vehicle, and there's different options that we can assign to this vehicle to configure to a specific specification. For instance, if I expand my branches up here and I look at the hull structure, then I can see I have 4 different options for my hull structure depending on particular choices that I can make. If we just want to look at those differences graphically, then using our Career View application, we can just move these apart and look at the different configurations that we have for the cabin. And there's 4 different options that we can choose from. And the same if we're looking at the suspension and steering assembly, then up here we can look at the tire options, and up here that for instance we can see that we have 2 different options for the wheels. We have off-road tires and we have desert tires. To configure a particular specification we can apply a filter to our structure, and up here we have our options filter, and here we can go through the different options that we have. So for instance I may want to choose a 4-man crew vehicle, and this now limits my selections for my bed options, and I'm going to choose a recon bed and maybe an armed cabin. Now because I choose a 4-man crew, that will automatically pick a particular engine configuration for me, the PMZ engine. Up here I can choose my tires, so maybe use off-road tires, and I want a remote firing system. This now configures the visualization of my vehicle, but also the structure. So up here I can now see that under hull structure I now have a particular choice for the cabin that I've selected. Now if we want to, we can save this configuration to the system so we can call it up later. And I'm going to give this a name, military crew 4 armed recon RFS vehicle. This is now saved as a saved expansion filter, and I can see the selected choice up here, and I can switch between them. So I have another filter that I've already stored, and I can switch to that to see a different configuration of my vehicle. If I pick my default filter, that will take me back to my original overloaded structure. Now let's have a quick look at how those configurations of those options, how they are specified. So first of all the options that you can use are specified in what's called an option pool. And in the option pool I can see all the choices. So I have my bed options, I've got my crew size options, and for instance also I've got my tire options for desert tires and off-road tires. Then I can also start to build rules between these different options. So for instance we have include rules where I can say if I have a crew size of 4, then I will automatically select the PMZ engine. In the same way we can define exclude rules, and we can also define enable rules. Now option pools are generic and can be used across multiple product sets. and the actual options that are valid for a particular product itself are captured in what's called an option set. So the option set gives me the choices that are valid for this particular product, and the option pool is like an overloaded set of options. So let's introduce a new option for my tires. So like I said before, the option pool has all the options that we can choose across different product ranges. So to include a new option, we do that within the option pool. And we can add a new design choice. And in this case, for instance, I may want to add snow tires. So option is called SRT and the description is snow tires. I can now see that under tires I now have my extra choice, which is called snow tires. Now the next thing I've got to do is update my option sets. Remember, the option set gives me all the choices that are valid for a particular product. We can manage our options in here within the option set, and the system highlights the new choices that I have available up here. So I can pick this option and say, snow tires is also going to be available for this particular product configuration. Then I also have a little tool up here that will let me check whether all my conditional rules work. So for instance, up here I can choose, if I pick a 4-man crew, it automatically picks my selected engine. When I go to my bed options, I only have the medic wrapper or the recon bed available, so I can test out whether my options and choices and my conditional rules between those, whether they work for the product configuration that I'm working on. Now let's introduce a new assembly into my structure and assign the option to it. So I'm just doing a search for the assembly that I'm interested in. So up here I've got my snow wheels. I will copy this to my clipboard. Let's go back to my overloaded structure. And where I define the wheel sets, I can now copy and paste my new assembly in here. The next thing I need to do is I need to now assign the actual expression to it. And I want to tell the system that the snow wheels are used for my tire configuration of snow tires. Now I just need to check in my changes. And I've now updated my product structure and I've added a new option in it. Now let's configure our structure and choose an option for when we have snow wheels in it. So again, we added our filter. And let's say we go through the same, we pick the 4-man crew with a recon bed. We choose an armed vehicle. This engine is already selected, but now we're choosing snow tires with an RFS. This will now reconfigure my structure, and under my track tires I now have snow wheels. We can also visualize this configuration. And now we can see we have a vehicle with snow tires. The final bit that I want to show is how we can actually create a variant structure from this overloaded bill of materials. So to capture a bill of materials that we may want to use for manufacturing, we want to create a standalone configuration based on a specification of conditions and choices. And we can do that by configuring our overloaded structure. Now by default it will automatically pick the options that I've already selected in my current view. So if I'm happy with those, then I accept those. We have a little confirmation to tell me what the new structure will look like. So we can look at that and we can see that under hull structure we have the 4 cab, for instance, and under suspension and steering we can see that we have the snow wheels available. Next, the system will check whether a variant specification of this configuration specification has already been configured and saved in the system. If there isn't one, I can create a new one on the fly. I need to give this a name. So let's say we call this one armed forecrew with snow tires, and that will be the name of the variant specification. Next, the module variant is the bill of materials that is going to be associated to the variant specification. So we're going to create a new model variant. We now see the variant specification, and the variant specification has a link back to the original overloaded structure. It shows me up here all the options and choices are made against the overloaded structure, and up here it has the deliverable, which is the bill of materials or the product structure of the module variant. We can have a look at that product structure, and we can visualize that product structure as well. But this is now a complete standalone structure that's no longer an overloaded structure. Yeah, so for instance, what we can see up here, the underhull, frame and body, we can now see our cabin that we've selected, and under suspension and steering we can now see that we have a snow wheels configuration in place. Now the idea of the variant module, or the module variant, is that when you come to manufacture, this is a particular configuration specification that you will be manufacturing. Now there's a link back to the overloaded structure. So if we're looking at the variants tab, we can see that this is the variant specification that belongs to this particular variant. Now this particular variant specification has a link back to the original overloaded structure that we started with. Yeah, where we have all the options in place. Now this is still the configured structure, so we can go back to the overloaded structure on this particular specification. Just to show you the full circle associativity between the overloaded structure, the variant specification, the module variant, and then back to the overloaded structure. So far we have seen how PTC's Windchill modular platforms capability can be used to architect, develop and validate modular platforms. This enables management and reuse of modules across different product ranges, reducing the time it takes to develop product variants. Thank you for watching this video.